It's horrible, and you have headhunters going, 3 times a week to the best people in your team. That's horrible.
Just got one of his best PMs poached, and so he's feeling it.
Thanks for
just
yes, right. They go. And that's one of the things which really sucks. The other one is that if you're not from here and you try to do business here, it's very difficult. That was my feeling before I moved. You give a business card, which says Madrid or Paris or London, not the same. People look at you as like, even if you're from LA, it's kind of like that. I was on a panel like this, by the way, which was very funny. Exactly the same theme, but you would replace Europe by Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's the same, because they're like, oh, we're not in Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
And another thing, but however, it's very easy. If you move here, very easy to have people help you, because generally when you came here, you got help by many people. So it's like the how can I help attitude, which you can feel very much. It's incredible. You can meet pretty much anyone very easily without a 3 weeks, 4 weeks delay and so on. And you have to have a reason though. But if you have a reason, it's very easy to meet someone. And then there are very few actually people from here. So everybody you work with, or even the Americans, are generally not from here, with rare exceptions.
Yeah.
So it's very easy, like no one is from here basically. So when you're here, it's pretty easy.
That's one major difference, which is you tell someone in Europe that you're going to quit your job to do a startup, they tell you you're crazy and shouldn't do it, and those are all the reasons and all the risk and everything. Here, you tell someone you're going to quit your job and do a startup, they ask you, great, how can I help?
Yeah. And with Bernardo's, you actually have a company called Step One, which is very involved with the Spanish entrepreneur. So tell us more about that.
I actually created a couple of startups in Spain, one in real estate, and then the leading social network that is still holding up against Facebook, Telefonica, and a couple of other ventures. But the one that I'm trying to promote Spanish businesses to come here to the US, it's called Step One. And by the way, we have an interesting program to bring Spanish engineers, top engineers here to the valley. So if anyone's interested, talk to me afterwards. Very important. Engineers. So, but I would say that the main difference raising money is that I don't know the venture capital market in other countries, but in Spain it's called venture capital, and they venture very little, and sometimes they don't even have capital.
Somebody please tweet that.
which is normally the case, So
Okay.
versus here, where even the business angels I'm surrounded by employees that they've been corporate animals for their entire life, but they were lucky enough to belong to a company like Facebook, Google, Apple. They have a few $1 million. They want to venture into risking some of their own money, being part of something that they think is cool, and they become angels on the side. It makes the whole ecosystem much more available into capital and stuff. Here is a lot of money. It is true that it's very demanding,
Yeah.
and it's hard here to compete for an idea, but they're so used to see a lot of people that that is much easier at the end than in Europe. And I would say that the critical difference is that everyone that you talk to that is ready to invest, they know what they're talking about. Their criteria for product is really good. They know when an app is good and it's not. The users, if I put money there, I become a geek of whatever I want to invest in. You see that, at least in Spain, they want to see the PowerPoint, they want to see the Excel, but have you used the product? What product? I see that I raised money for this social network. It was, in total, it was about 17 million euros. All paid in capital, and none of the investors use the product. So they knew about it, and but you never see this here. Never. You don't put the money into something that you truly believe as being something that you can believe in.
Yeah. And on that note, is interesting because I think, by the way, there's a very old article that Paul Graham, which started Y Combinator, wrote. What makes Silicon Valley is actually a really good essay. Is you really want to understand the history and why there's just amazing engineers all understand how to build a startup, and they became angel investor because they understand the pain point why, how hard it is. So people usually, I feel, are a lot more lenient. They get it. It's okay even you fail. Just to sort of summarize what you guys just talked about.
The relationship to money is very different too. Like it's just a means of success or a measure of success. Again, I like the video game analogy, right? You progress and you get points or you get whatever weapons and so on. And here it's amazing to see someone like, well, he's in New York, but Dennis Crowley sold his company to Google, and they tried to acquire, well, that's not, of course, never been public, but we kind of know they tried to acquire Foursquare, and he said no, you know, and for a lot of money. And just because he already made some money from his acquisition to Google, now he shoots for hundreds of millions or nothing, or a billion or nothing, right? So it's like they're never happy with what they have. Like if you sell for 10, you sell for 50, you sell for 100, they'll start again and again and again to just shoot higher, and then they help entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But it's not for the money.
Yeah, it's not for the money. It's
Right.
basically to try and build something which has footprint, which has significance, which makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, their motivation is potentially to change the world. Obviously, not that many entrepreneurs actually can change the world, but they all have a sort of shot at it. And the good thing with, you know, the relationship to money here compared to Europe is there's always someone in Silicon Valley who has more than you have anyway. And so there's no problem. Whereas in Europe, people tend to be protective about that because they don't want to know, or they don't want people to know that that they have a bunch of money. The one difference as well is this notion of what I call paid forward, where people try and really be helpful. But let's be clear, when we engage socially, you have to be efficient. You have to be time constrained in the sense that I'll take 5 minutes to listen to you, to understand what you're up to, what you need, and what I can do to help, and that's it. So don't try and spend the usual casual 30 minutes a la European. And so when people say, hey, can we have lunch? Yeah, it's half an hour. It's not 2 hours like we have in France.
It's a sandwich.
And it's a sandwich. And once we're done, we're done. It's not like, it's much more programmed, social, and systematic, much less social. And, the reason why we're so interested in seismic, Twitter, Facebook, is because we know what you're up to, so we don't have to ask you how you're doing.
But it's very surprising, if I can add to this, when I actually tried to remind when I moved 4 years ago what was shocking to me, and there are more cultural differences than I thought. And that's one. Like you call someone and you say, can we have lunch? Like in Spain, we would say, let's have lunch and just to get to know each other. Here people would say, why? And the first time I was like, why? Well, I'd like to know you. No, but what's the agenda? Like, just have fun, right? And now I start to do this to my European friends sometimes without even noticing. They call me and I'm like, why do you call? And then they don't understand it. But here it's to the point, always.
Absolutely.
Which is sad in a way, honestly. But
yeah, and I'm also working on a startup, and then I actually have lunch with this random person through a friend. And the first thing she said down, she's like, pitch it to me.
yeah.
And my style is I want to build a relationship. It's like, don't worry about it, just pitch to me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's like if you see a girl and you want to have sex immediately. Before you see what I mean. That's why it's very French, I'm sorry. You see my point, you got to a point. All right, let's move on.
And just to say something, because I had an investor meeting last night, and we went an hour and a half, and I don't know if it's good stuff. Anyway, so let's come back. So I'm going to ask 2 more questions. I'm going to open up the floor. Quickly, I know many of you guys are thinking perhaps moving here. I know all of you guys, obviously a lot of local Americans colleagues that you work with, and all your portfolio companies as they are hiring. Is there some of the things that this crowd needs to know other than straightforward, just don't waste time? Any other things that these crowd needs to know when they're working with potential American colleagues, partners, or customers that you guys would like to advise and suggest? Anyone?
One thing which I learned when I bought my first American company back in '96 was that the culture here uses a lot of positive reinforcement. The whole "great, you did well," or those kinds of things, which are definitely not, or was not my style, is something that they just need. It's just part of the culture here, and you just have to get adjusted to it and